Hello everyone, welcome. If you're new here, my name is Aileen, and here we like to talk about all things makeup, mostly luxury makeup, skincare, and fashion. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, I hope you consider subscribing and joining the family. So today's a little bit different of a video. In July of 2019, my life was changed forever, not due to I contracting meningitis, but my then 4-year-old son, Xavier. So I want to put this video out there in awareness of Meningitis Awareness Day, which is today, April 24th. I kindly ask that you let all the ads play, all proceeds from this video, I will double and donate them to meningitis research. And I will have the link down below in the description box where I will be donating, and that is meningitis.org. So before we start, I just want to say this is my personal story with my son, what I experienced, what we went through as a family, how it has changed me. As a trigger warning, if you have a hard time handling hearing kids being sick and just the trauma behind it, then I highly advise you to click off this video. I strongly considered having my makeup done and not doing it on camera just so I can just really speak on it, but I feel emotionally I cannot do that. So hopefully applying my makeup and speaking, I can get through this. We'll see. I'll try. So as far as what's on my face, I do have my brows done and I'm just moisturized, and I'm just going to do my makeup, show you the products, not really talk about the products. But definitely, if you have questions about the products, feel free to leave them down in the comment section and I will definitely talk about it. And I will answer your questions. So in 2019, and I remember it was June 2nd, I want to say that was a Thursday, my son, my oldest son, who was 19 at the time, had convinced me that we hadn't spent enough mother-son time together and we should go to Miami. At the time we were living in Atlanta, and spend some time together with our family for July 4th weekend. So this particular Thursday, he came to my job and we left from there straight from work. So I could be in Miami on Friday to work from home. Well, my mom's house. So we left. I remember being in the parking lot saying, this is not a good idea. Xavier's been kind of like fever on and off, and I really don't know what's going on. And he made a good point and he said, you know what, Mom, kids get fevers all the time and they're fine. I said, you know what, you're right. We left, we drove through the whole night I kept calling, and my husband kept saying, he's fine. And I was like, okay. So I didn't call anymore. I let them sleep. We got to Miami probably about 4 or 5 in the morning. Lay down for a few hours of sleep just to be up working at 8. Next thing you know, my husband was at work in the office, and our then 16-year-old was watching the kids. Because on Fridays, my husband only works a few hours. So he calls me and he says, have you called our daughter to check on Xavier? I said, well, yeah. She said he was fine. He didn't want to eat breakfast, but he was laying down on the sofa watching TV. He said, call it father's intuition, parents' intuition. Something's wrong. I gotta go. I said, okay, well, I just talked to her and it sounded like everything was fine, but go ahead. So he left, and it was about a 25-minute drive. And when he got home, he attempted to speak to him and immediately called me and said, he's not speaking. And I said, well, does he have a fever? He's like, not really. I said, call the doctor. I'll let them know you're on the way. I'll call the doctor, let them know you're on the way, and just go. From the time he got to the doctor, it was about 15 minutes. By the time he got to the doctor, he called me. He said, something's terribly wrong. I just got here. I had to carry him in. He can no longer walk. And I said, what? I said, what do you mean? So this was close to lunchtime at this point. I said, okay, just Let me know what they say. So he calls me 10 minutes later. Apparently when they walked in the doctor's office, he looked very lethargic and they saw him right away. And they told him to take him to the hospital across the street immediately. So he did that. He told me what was going on, and I was still working. Mind you, I'm 600 plus miles away. So he tells me what's going on, and I said, okay, let me know. He called me at 2-ish and said they're doing some testing. I'll call you back. The next call I got was from an Atlanta area code, but it was not my husband's number. It was a nurse. And she said, I don't even remember her name. My name is so-and-so. I'm calling from the hospital. Your husband's not in the state of mind to make a medical decision for your son at this time. And I need to speak to you. So my heart dropped. And I said, yeah, sure. What's going on? And she said, this is, a general hospital. He needs to be rushed to CHOA, Children's Healthcare of Atlanta, and he needs a spinal tap ASAP. So we're calling to see if you want us to do it here or either airlift or ambulance him to CHOA, to the Children's Hospital, and have them do the spinal tap there. So immediately I just said, please have him transferred immediately and let them handle the spinal tap. I just really wanted the spinal tap to be handled by professionals that are used to his body size. So the Children's Hospital specifically. So next, my goal was get a flight. I just remember calling my mom. It was July 3rd at this point. I'm like, where am I going to get a flight? And I could just not find a flight. And I remember running outside to my mom's front yard and just getting on my knees and screaming. And sorry. Okay, I'm back. And then she came outside and my mom's like, please calm down. You'll get through this. And I drove to Miami. I didn't fly. So I said, forget the car. I'll worry about that later. I gotta go. Once I got myself together, I looked online and found a flight. It felt surreal. I felt like it was a nightmare. Like it really wasn't happening. And I get to the airport. I remember calling a few of my friends and them calming me down. And I got on my flight. And when I got to Atlanta, a friend of mine picked me up at the airport and took me directly to the hospital. By the time I got to the hospital, he was in a regular room. And it was about 1:30 in the morning. So I just hugged on him, kissed on him. He was sleeping. Just let my husband know I was there, and I went to sleep. So the next morning, my two oldest, she was 16 at the time, and the other, I believe, was 21. They all came to visit. They were all there checking up on him, and his food arrived. And I remember lifting up the spoon to feed him and giving him the food, and it just sat. He couldn't open his mouth. I immediately went running to the nurse's station and I said, something's wrong. He's looking at me, but that's not him. He's trying to eat, but he's not there. I said, I understand he has his eyes open, but something's wrong. I remember the doctor rushing in, pinching his legs, I guess to see if he had any mobility or reaction to like a pressure point or something he did. And immediately the doctor said, can I see you outside? And I said, yeah, sure. So mind you, I had my two oldest daughters there, which were 16 and 21 at the time. And my daughter, Talia, which was 6. So he came and he said, things are about to escalate really quickly. I suggest you tell the kids to leave. I didn't know what was going on. I really didn't. And at this point, they didn't either. So I asked the kids to leave, and it looked like an episode of House. These double doors open, and just these dozens of doctors and nurses came running and throwing him from one bed to another with a blanket, but his body looked so lifeless and just running. And it just looked like an episode of House, because all these doctors ran into this intensive care unit room where we're standing outside the door with it was all glass doors, but we're standing there looking, and it must have been 20 doctors in that room, just connecting him to all these machines, not knowing what's going on. One particular nurse didn't even put on gloves. She was just like, I don't have time. And she didn't. And keep in mind that she didn't have gloves on, because that really was a saving grace. So it went on like that for days. They put these machines all over his head, a camera that would watch every move that he made in his coma. They would watch all the activity in his brain. And the whole time, I didn't cry. I didn't cry not once being in there, because I was terrified of having to be forced to make a decision and not being in the mental state of mind I needed to be in to make them. So when I say it was like an episode of House, and it's not funny, I'm just trying to get through it. It really was. There were doctors everywhere writing with a dry erase marker on the mirror what they thought it could possibly be. And none of them, just so they could test for it. And none of them could figure it out. And it was crazy. At this point, he had 2 spinal taps. And they were trying to figure it out. So what they were able to come tell us is whatever it is came during this time frame. Which just so happened that the week that they gave us of the time frame that it happened, he had been on a family reunion cruise with my husband and his side of the family, and I didn't go to that particular cruise because I was working. I will talk while I find the blush I want to wear. So then it was just testing after testing after testing, and nobody could figure out what was going on. And one particular day, I remember I never left the hospital. Let's start there. Never left. And one particular day, I remember the doctor coming in, because my mom and my son, the ones I left in Miami, did end up driving my car from Miami back to Atlanta. And they were there. My mom was helping my husband with the other kids. And my oldest son was really there for support, but at that point had not been in the hospital. Nobody was allowed in intensive care at that time except for the parents and my mother. Meningitis Awareness color is purple, therefore I am doing a purple eye look. So at this point, I'm Googling, I'm trying to figure out what's going on. Nobody knows anything. So as far as meningitis and what it is, I want to read you the definition online. Meningitis is a disease caused by inflammation of the protective membranes covering the brain and spinal cord, known as meninges. So what they showed me, and they did CAT scans and MRIs, there are all these little protectants around the brain, and they have like this those little nerves have this fatty stuff around them, and I can't even remember all the names right now. So his body was attacking itself, and it was eating away at that. So as far as the damage that was going to be done when he woke up, nobody knew. It was let's just wait and see. So one particular day they came in and said, we want to test him for mono to see if mono is what caused the viral issue that we're seeing in his blood. And I was like, okay. So, and I'm like, well, I'm very curious as to why this is coming out now, on why we're testing for mono now. And they said the nurse that received him in the intensive care that didn't wear gloves has not had mono since she was in high school. She said he is the only child she treated without gloves. And she is home extremely sick and took the time to call the hospital and tell us what the doctor told her in hopes that it would help Xavier. And that is when they determined that he caught mono on this cruise. And the cruise was a month before. But then the week before he got sick, maybe not even a week, maybe a few days, we were at a water park. And I'll post the photo here. That's the last photo I took of him before he fell ill. So apparently he got a common cold in the water park. And his body didn't know how to fight the mono, which was already in the process of doing, and this common cold. So the body said, I'm going to attack myself. And that's essentially what happened. So it was a long 2 months in the hospital. And I'll never forget the day my husband was home with the kids. My mom was home with the kids, helping my husband. And the doctor came in and said, he's 4 years old. He's little. I'm really going to need you to prepare for the worst. And I said, that's not an option. I said, what I need to know is what are our options? And that's when the doctor said, your only option is steroids. And I said, okay, well, what's the issue with that? He said at his size and his body type, typically kids that have asthma and have it really bad, blah, 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 that need steroids cannot take, and he didn't have asthma, he used that as an example, cannot take more than 4 milligrams a day. And I was like, okay, so 4 milligrams? He said, no, I'm gonna have to give him 12 milligrams every 12 hours. And I was like, 24 milligrams instead of 4. And I said, okay, well, what's the prognosis? What's the possibility he's going to live through this? And he said, not good. And my heart dropped. But again, I didn't lose it. I refused to lose myself emotionally, and I refused to lose faith that he was going to be okay. So doing my eye makeup is probably a better idea right now at this part of the story. So I decided, I made the medical decision by myself. Let's do it. Because at this point, I was dealing with this guilt that I went to therapy for. Because all I could think about is when he got sick, he had to say mommy, which is what kids say. I wasn't there to hear it. Sorry, I'll be right back. Okay, sorry. So I wasn't there to hear mommy. And all I kept thinking is, am I going to hear it again? So it was tough. It was tough. I felt I had let him down. So eventually I went to therapy to forgive myself. But throughout all of that, I kept thinking to myself, my husband saw him deteriorate. And maybe that's why he couldn't make the medical decisions. So I don't blame him. Because had I seen him deteriorate as quickly as my husband did, I'm not convinced I would have been okay as I was at that moment. So I made the decision to do it. And it worked out. They just said his body temperature is going to reduce significantly due to the amount of steroids that are being pumped into him through this IV. And he may flatline. We'll get him back. And I was like, okay, let's do it. And I remember it was like this whole prep team, all these monitors. I'm not going to do a lower lash. That's going to be pointless. So they brought the steroids and they're preparing everything. And they brought like a really big, it looked like a floaty for a pool kind of. But, and it like, it's a blanket and you lay it on top of them and it just blows heat to kind of just keep their body temperature as high as possible. And I was sleeping on the little bed that you have in intensive care. And I would craft. For those of you that don't know, I craft and I make cards. So I would sit there the whole time making cards and crafting, giving them to the nurses and to parents, the other parents that were there dealing with things with their kids. And I just remember the nurse coming in prior to us knowing what he had and saying, I don't know how you're so pleasant as you can be, considering you're the only parent in this intensive care that does not know what's wrong with their son, that does not know what's wrong with their child. And I said, I don't know. I'm just trying to keep it together. And they were all super sweet, super nice. So that night we started the steroid treatments, and that went on for 3 or 4 days. They took him off when he started to show improvement. I want to say it was 3 or 4 days. So for those 3 or 4 days, at that point, my husband had already run through his leave at work, and had to go back to work. So he wasn't there during the day. He would come in the evenings and then leave later in the evening. I remember attempting to fall asleep, just waiting to see what would happen. And I remember the machines just flatlining. And every time I heard that beep, I would run. I would get on top of him. And between him and I was that big inflatable blanket that was just blowing hot air. It looked like a pool inflatable. I don't know if I said that already. So between him and I, that's what was between us. And I would just hug him. I would put his head, his ears towards my chest so he can feel my warmth, so he can hear my heartbeat, and he would come back. One second. Okay. And I did that for 4 days. And not once did I lose hope, faith, that everything would be okay. Not once. When they told me to prepare for the worst, I remember saying, that's not an option. And I feel like I thought about it for a quick second. And I just remember thinking to myself, if he goes, I'm going with him. And I think that would be any mother's initial thought. To my friends and family that were there and supported me through all of this, they all absolutely know how much that meant to me. But I'm not gonna lie, I lost a lot of friendships over it. If you didn't call to check on me or him, I lost what I thought were lifelong friendships. It put my life in a different perspective. And I was okay with it. So after he finished his 4 days of steroid treatments, he woke up, he started coming back, but he could not speak. So we did like the little yes or no signs. He could nod his head, but at times he just couldn't. He couldn't really move his hands. He didn't have fine motor skills. He obviously couldn't walk. He couldn't talk. So I was ecstatic to have him awake. But nobody knew the road to recovery. Nobody could tell me a prognosis, how long it would take. Nobody knew. They just said every kid is different. And I said, well, my kid's, he's crazy, but he's gonna get through it. And it was just an experience that I have held inside for a very long time. I literally told my husband for the first time right before this video that I sought therapy. Because it's not something that we talk about. We try to just live life to the absolute fullest. And that's how we go about our day. So it's like, it's not a topic that we can easily discuss. We both went through it. We both know what we both went through. And we just try not to talk about it. I did talk about it with Xavier and let him know that I was doing this and that I was inviting all content creators to create a look, whether it be on YouTube or Instagram, in his honor. And if anybody did, I would show him the looks, and he was quite excited. He was like, wait, that's what I had? That's the name of it? Yeah, that's the name of it. So over the course of the next week, when his vitals were continuously stable, they started sending the rehab team up to intensive care, kind of just getting him to do things. At first, it was like being able to flip a card to yes or no when we spoke to him and had a yes or no question, a few things as far as learning sign. Okay, that is it. I cannot do a lower lash. As far as, so here's the eye look. As far as doing signing and things like that. I was gonna do liner, but that's probably not a good idea either. So I remember my then 19-year-old is really close with him. So one particular day he walked into intensive care, and by this day rehab had already been coming a few times a day, kind of like getting his muscles moving and stuff like that. And I remember it was evening, and all the nurses were like, don't worry about bathing him. Don't worry about this. Like, no, I just felt like, I don't know if this is going to be my life for the rest of my life. So I want to do it. So I would just like throw him on my shoulder, do what I had to do. And this particular day, my then 19-year-old walks in, and Xavier didn't see him. And I'm giving him a bath, and I tell him, because we're like a bath, like on the chair, like on a recliner type thing with this stuff over it to make it waterproof. So I'm telling him, I'm going to lean your body against here so I can wash your feet, blah, blah, blah. And I knew his connection to his brother was impeccable, but this moment was just amazing. And I remember I kind of let him go, but kind of had him like leaning his body weight on my shoulder. And I said, I'm just going to lean your body here. I'm not going to let you fall, so that I can wash your back and your bottom. And he looked up and he saw his brother, and he laughed out loud and took 2 steps. When I heard that voice box laugh, I just knew we're going to be all right. We're going to be all right. And it was beautiful. Give me a second. It was an absolutely beautiful moment to experience. And the only time in those 2 months that I left the hospital, I poked myself in the eye. The only time in those 2 months that I left the hospital was when he woke up and they told me, oh, we have to do another spinal tap. And I'm like, oh, wait, what? I've been waiting for him to wake up, and you're gonna give him anesthesia to put him back to sleep? I was a little in my feelings. So that is the only time I left. But from there, it got better. You know, we had to wait for him to learn to talk, walk, use the bathroom, because at this point he was in diapers again. And it was a long road. And for anybody who knew me prior to that, I was so high strung. I would get mad easily. Everything had to be perfect because of my OCD. I was just high strung. We need some more blush. I feel like I teared right through that. Never again. Never again. It's so hard for me to get mad. If I do get mad, it does not last very long at all. I feel like, was that pink enough? It just gave me a whole new perspective on life. And the way I saw it was, he was so happy throughout all of this that I was like, no way. How can somebody that's been through so much, because he was born and went to intensive care. He had, by the age of 6 months, he was having a surgery. You know, he broke his arm and had to get 3 pins put in with surgery. Like, at this point, he hadn't been through enough. And I was like, and he's always happy. Like, how does he do this? So that's when I was like, you know what? If he's always happy and he's the one going through it, who am I? Who am I to not be happy all the time and enjoy life and live it to the fullest? I feel like I want a little more pop, so I'm going to try this one. So yeah, that happened. And yeah, we're going to have to dim it down. He continuously got better, and I will pop the word on the screen of what he ended up being diagnosed with. It's a long E word, but pretty much it's like a sickness-induced ADD type. He went through therapy for a while, for walking and things like that. And when I tell you he's happy all the time, if I find the video, I'm going to put it right here. We were on the way to therapy and we were running early. So I said, let's go to the mall and walk up and down the stairs, since they're going to have you do that at therapy too, and just start working on it. And he saw two friends arguing and he said, nobody should be mad at each other. And he stood in front of these doors and danced. So the girls were on the inside of the mall and he danced until these girls walked out laughing and smiling and joking with each other. And then he said, okay, we can go now. Like that's what he wanted. He just wants everybody to be happy. I'm happy to have him. Today he has little things like ADD style things. He tends to walk on his tippy toes. So we try to do exercises to strengthen his Achilles. But besides that, he is a perfectly normal kid. And what I want to get out there is, if you're a parent, don't ignore signs and confuse them for just a common cold. Really pay attention. And if your child is of the age that can communicate, ask the questions. So for meningitis, the common symptoms are fever, severe headache, rash, stiff neck, dislike of bright lights, very sleepy, confused, possible seizures. And although meningitis is rare, for some reason, over the course of the past year or two, I feel it's become more of a common thing. And I don't know why. And it breaks my heart to see it, because I know what I've been through. Well, not me, but my son, and what I had to see him go through. I know in 2019, which was his year, there were 371 cases. And most of those cases were in children under the age of 1. And what's scary about that is, how much can they communicate at that age? So the biggest peak is in kids above 1, and then it's the adolescent years. I did see not too long ago that there's been a spike in like college and high school age kids. And I was like, what? Like, where is this coming from? So just to read you some statistics, approximately 600 to 1,000 people contract meningitis in the US each year. Of those who get the disease, 10 to 15% die. Among those who survive, approximately 1 to 5 live with permanent disabilities for the rest of their lives, such as brain damage, hearing loss, loss of kidney function, and limb amputations. 21% of all cases occur in preteens, teens, and young adults, ages 11 to 24. So those are the stats. I will have down in the description box the meningitis.org linked, so you can read up on the organization, where I plan on making the donation. If I can't double to make $100, the minimum donation will be $100. But I really just wanted to bring awareness to this disease, to this monster. And I really just want to put it out there to all of those content creators or subscribers or followers that are either doing a video or posting a purple look on Instagram. I cannot tell you enough how much that means to me. Wholeheartedly, it means the world to me. For all of you letting the ads play so that we can continue to raise the money to be donated for awareness, thank you so much. I love each and every one of you so much, and I try to keep in contact with each and every one of you through the comments. If you have any questions, any similar experiences you'd like to share, don't feel obligated, but definitely reach out. I am an open book. If you ask, I will tell. I don't tend to volunteer information often, but if you ask, I'm always willing and open to a conversation. Let me see if Xavier wants to come in and say hi. Come here so they can see you. You see yourself there. Say hi.
Hi.
Really? Hi. What's your name? Tell them your name.
Xavier.
How old are you?
7.
Yeah. Do you remember what you had? The name of what you had?
No.
No. Started with an M. Meningitis. Just say thank you to everyone.
Thank you to everyone.
No. You don't say thank you to everyone. You say thank you, everyone.
Oh.
Say thank you.
Everyone. I'm done.
All right, everyone. Thank you so much for coming. And until next time, don't forget, we are all perfectly imperfect. Bye.